Hello, hello, and welcome again to another episode of Own Your Yes Live. I am your host, Valera Wilson, and this is where we get to hear from resilient, ambitious women sharing their stories of success and the challenges along the way and how they had to make adjustments and changes in order to thrive. So, this is where you get to hear the real stories of real women who are imperfect yet very ambitious so that we can all learn and grow together. So I'm excited today to have with me Zerlina Jackson, who is the corporate vice president of New York Life. And I am so excited to have known Zerlina for a long time, I'm happy to say. And very long time. And just to hear her story and have her share it is one that I'm super excited that I believe you all can learn from and grow from. So I'll let you do the honors of introducing yourself, Carolina.
Yeah, Valera, first of all, thank you so much for inviting me to this series. It's a wonderful series. I love what you're doing for women, and I am just so thankful to be a part of it. As Valera mentioned, my name is Zerlina. Everyone calls me Z. I am the corporate vice president of New York Life. I work in NewYorkLife.com, which is the digital team. So I lead up our brand website as well as leading up some of our agent digital experiences from a website perspective. I've been with New York Life for 2.5 years. It's an amazing organization to work for. I'm really thankful to be a part of that organization and really thankful to just share my story of how I got to where I am today with all of you ladies on the call. And one of the words you said, Valera, was amazing. It was brilliant, imperfect, right? Because we're all imperfect in certain ways, but that definitely comes together to make us who we are. So I'm excited to share my story of being imperfect with you all.
I love it. I love it. And you're right. I pull that word out for a reason because it's so easy for us to hide behind our LinkedIn profiles and our successes and our wins, but nobody's winning because of our wins. They're winning because they realize that we've been through things, but yet we still thrive and how we do that. So this is an opportunity for us to share that. So I appreciate you sharing. And I mean, you've been at New York Life for a couple of years, but you've been in the digital marketing, digital space for decades, right?
Yeah. Let's not put an S behind that decade. No.
Not decades, over a decade. Got it. I stand corrected. No. Clearly, go ahead.
No. I was going to say I started my career, at Domino's Pizza in Ann Arbor, Michigan, and I started off in the help desk working in IT, and had a few roles beyond that, but where I truly entered the digital space is in what they called at the time precision marketing, which I joined the team that was developing online ordering and really changing the way we order food today. It really revolutionized, I don't want to say the world, but it kind of did, right? In terms of how we think about ordering our food and getting it delivered to our home. So it was an amazing opportunity to start there. And from there, I've been blessed to work for many great organizations throughout my career and in turn, New York Life now. So super excited about that.
Yes, I'm excited. I know, to hear your journey. I mean, there's so much to unpack here. So we're going to dig right in. I know you and I had the wonderful opportunity to meet when we both moved to Cleveland. We were both taking on new roles and new companies there. And literally the day after I started the new role in Cleveland, we met after work and the rest is history. And that's been, oh my God, 15 years ago, I think, somewhere around almost 15 years.
You're gonna quit having people age me out here.
I'm just saying.
It's been a while.
It's been a while. But I have watched you take such amazing leaps and jumps. I mean, and so I just want you to maybe just share with people that are listening, women that are listening, like what are some of the defining moments that you believe have gotten you to where you are today? I mean, you started out in help desk and IT. Now you're a vice president for New York Life. What are some of those defining moments that really have gotten you to where you are?
Yeah, I would say some of the things that really kind of laid the foundation for where I am today, and and really kind of defined who I am, happened early on. I can remember early on, really, spending time with my grandmother, who was instrumental in my life. She was an amazing woman, huge force in my life. And my grandmother grew up in this country during a different time, right? Different place and different time in the country. And when she was younger and she would go to school, it was she was in a point where it was segregation and discrimination, lots of discrimination in this country. And at a point in her life when she was trying to continue her education and she was just a child in grade school, her mother had her younger sister. And because um, of discrimination practices, they blamed the child on my grandmother and said, no, that's your child and you must leave school. And
Wow.
so my grandmother was a huge proponent of education because she realized at an early age that the way you change your life, the way you change your circumstances, is by having an education and really having that foundational knowledge so that you can definitely contribute in much greater ways that when you don't have that education, it hurts you, it harms you. So I would say that was a defining moment in my life, is spending a lot of time with my grandmother, who really pushed the value of education and really championed my sister, myself, all of the youth that was coming under her, just really kind of promoting that we needed to have an education in order to change, our circumstances. And so I'd say that was one major moment in my life. And then the second moment in my life that I can remember that really kind of shifted who I was in terms of the career that I was pursuing is it was very early on, and you know, I was starting out to pursue my education. I wasn't doing it full time. And my grandmother's words rang true, of course. But I was in a meeting, and it was at a job I had at a hospital. And I was in a meeting, and I remember the meeting happening, and I was there, but no one asked me my thoughts, no one asked me my opinions, no one even directed the conversation at me. It was like I was invisible in this meeting. And I remember one day saying to myself, like, I'm going to show up in places and people are going to know that I'm not invisible. And so I really kind of, at those two, at that moment of having that foundation of education, at the moment of feeling like I want to make sure that I can contribute at the highest levels and allow my voice to be heard. Those are moments that really transcended or really pushed me to really start to move myself in a different direction,
Hmm.
really continue to pursue my education, really to continue to work towards, having a career that was meaningful to me, and a career that I can contribute in a way that was authentic to me.
Wow. No, that's good. I mean, I think you mentioned grandmothers, and whoa, what blessings they are, because mine certainly had a huge role in, like you said, me really realizing I wanted to pursue my education.
Yeah,
Kind of talk through, you've made a lot of career moves. I know
yeah.
you've had some tremendous success doing that. Kind of talk through some of those opportunities that came your way, and what were you thinking in those moments? I mean, for the women that are watching, they, might be stuck in certain places or afraid to take a move, but you've made both literal moves, physically and career wise. So kind of walk us through that journey, some of those pivotal moments in your journey of making those moves.
Yeah, I would say, there are moments that we second guess ourselves, right? Like, as I was reading your book and you talked about being really nervous to move to Cleveland, I was like, she was nervous? We had a great time, I was like, really? Me? You were nervous about that? I'm happy you did, but it was kind of funny to me, like that was, so something that gave you a little bit of anxiety there. And I will say that for me, some of the things, like when I think about like the moves that I've made, like literally across, different states and things of that nature, I honestly think that's just part of my personality. It's who I am, is to want to pick up and want to explore, and I'm not afraid to take chances and I'm not afraid to start over. And I think that part of when we're growing and when we're developing and when we're learning to hear our own voice, sometimes other voices, right, around you, and they mean well. They don't
Mm.
mean well, but sometimes people say, "Are you really going to do that? Can you do that? You're really going to start
Mhm.
over? What are you going to do there?" And it allows us to like kind of second guess ourselves and our own internal voice is like, well, who do you think you are that you can up and move and start your life in a whole different state, and you can do that over and over again. And I think that one of the things for me is I just started to listen to myself more and
Mm.
lean into what myself like innately was telling me to that you can do this and you can
Mm.
achieve what what your heart desires. And it's scary, but you're going to be just fine. You're going to be just fine.
Wow, that's a moment right there. That's like a pin. That's like a hashtag
Hmm.
statement right there. It's like we know what we want, or we have that feeling, but then the other voices come in to try to persuade us. And like you said, sometimes they're very close to us, people that love us, just want
Yeah.
the best for us. So they're not intending necessarily to be negative or to be the downers, but they can cause us to have that hesitation and to question, well, do I really want to do this? Is this the right thing to do? And you're right. I've had that multiple times, right? But to your point of just taking that risk, and what you said, which is so powerful, is learning to listen to your own voice. And ladies, if you're listening, like that is like a moment in time to just rest and like listening to your own voice. How often do we really take the time to really listen to our own voice and just say, you know what, this really does feel good to me. This does feel right to me. Um, I mean, in those moments, I mean, you mentioned to your point of, it being your personality to maybe move around and to explore things. Were there challenges that you found that you even had to, even with having maybe that personality, someone maybe says, well, I'm not that exploratory. I'm not that extrovert, or whatever the name they might want to give it.
Yeah.
What did you have to maybe still navigate, even though maybe that was your personality? Because I know it wasn't easy. I know it wasn't always easy for me. I want to know,
Yeah.
like, what did you have to overcome? How did you have to maybe shift in how you saw yourself or the situations to get over maybe even the hesitations at times?
Yeah, I think, I had to lean on friends in some places. I'll tell you, when I moved to New York, I was like, I've always wanted to live in New York. I think New York is one of the most amazing cities in the world. But I had to learn everything. Like I had never needed to rely on subways and
Mhm.
public transportation like that. I'd lived in a lot of Midwestern cities. So Detroit, you get a car like the day you're born, right? You come out of the womb and they're like, here you go, here's your GM car. And so I've always had a car and I moved Detroit to Cleveland, to Pittsburgh, to Kansas City, all of these places with lots of space and you can, drive around on your own. And the minute I showed up in New York, I don't have a car. I'm trying to figure out where am I going to live? How do I get to work? How do I navigate the city? And I remember calling a good friend of mine who had just moved, she's from there, but she had just moved back. And I was just like, I need your help. And she was like, "See, get it together. You have to really like realize this is New York and you need to really focus on where you're gonna live, which trains is gonna take you from like your house to your job, because you could be on the train for hours and I just have to stop and say, wow, right? Like I need to rely on some of the things I had learned in the past about really starting to plan out more, right? New York wasn't a city where I could just show up and just integrate. I was like, oh, I really have to think about things like how am I going to navigate this public transportation? I have to plan where am I going to live? Like I had to rely on relationships and networks that I had in
Mm.
the past
Mm.
in order to help me navigate new situations. And so I think when I was, moving around the first few times, it was a little bit easier. And but when I moved to New York, it was one of those things that I really had to kind of sit down and have a talk with myself and say, you need to start really being a little bit more detailed in your plans about what you are doing and how you're doing it.
Wow. No, that's good. And you said something that I thought was interesting. You said, I had to rely on my networks. I had to
Yeah.
rely on people. I had to ask for help.
Yeah.
That's a mouthful right there, to your point. And sometimes we're trying to take I feel like there's a balance, and you tell me what your thoughts are. There's a balance between you got to take that leap and go it alone, because not everybody's going to be on the journey with you. But then there's that moment in time where you will have to maybe lean on people and different networks to help you acclimate, and when you're taking that leap, to get yourself on maybe on solid ground, if it makes sense,
I
right?
No, I totally agree, right? Like, even going back to the Cleveland story, right? You went at it alone, but when you got there, you created a network of individuals and friends and
Yeah.
people that we still, keep in touch with today,
Yep.
right? From that time there. And so you do have to take the leap and have the faith that you're going to be able to figure it out and
Mhm.
be able to accomplish anything you set your mind to. But one of the one of our like biggest strengths is our support and our networks that we have. And so you do need to have people in your corner that can help you navigate situations, people you can lean on for advice, and that's professionally and that's personally. And for me, those relationships are so important. And even though I've done many things, moved many times, and I've done those moves by myself, but I've always had a network of individuals supporting me, whether it's my parents who I'm calling to like, hey, I need your help to kind of help me move from one place or another, or a network of someone, I believe a friend of a common associate of ours where actually
Mhm.
introduced us, right?
Yep.
So we had that network in common to be able to, formulate friendships and relationships moving forward. So you go at things alone, but you have a strong support system, and you need to rely and depend on that support system to help you propel yourself even further.
That's a good point, and it's funny that because you mentioned that something that's really important is it could be family or friends, or it could be people you don't even know that you're starting to get to know, that become part of that network. Because I think sometimes
Yeah.
it can be hard because people immediately think, well, my network has to be people that are like so close to me, and I know these people very, very well. I have found sometimes in making those leaps that they're going to be people that you don't know very well, that
Yeah.
end up playing a very, very strong part in helping you get acclimated. Because to your point, we didn't know each other. I was day one in at work at the new job. We met after work, and to your point, I was in Cleveland for a year, and we hung out, and we developed a network. I mean, we were tight for a year, right? And
Yeah.
but I could not foresee that when I took that leap, and I'm sure it's probably the same for you. You've had to take leaps by yourself, and then before you know it, there's these people. But you have to be open to that. I think the biggest thing is to be open to people that can probably help you, that may not look like you, that may not be exactly in the quadrant of your life that you want them to be. Because sometimes I feel like maybe we are expecting the people that we've known for a very long time to be there for us, or the people that are in our family to be there for us, and they may not always be the people that help us get to where we want to go.
Absolutely. I absolutely agree with that. I think back to my time in Cleveland before moving to Pittsburgh, right? Like there was a gentleman, I worked for a bank it was 2008 financial crisis. Why I chose to go to a bank, I'll never know during that time, but it turned out to be a good decision. And there was a gentleman who was doing the hiring to determine if I was going to have a job in Pittsburgh. And we had a very good, first interview. And from our working relationship in Pittsburgh, that's how I ended up in Kansas City. Is he moved to Kansas City? He started with, H&R Block, and he picked up the phone and called me and said, "D, I think there's a really good opportunity here for you." Right. And continue to help me grow and craft my career. And I keep in touch with him until this day. But to your point, you never know who is going to be in your support system, who's going to help you, who's going to help you, shape and grow your career. You
Mhm.
have to be open to people doing that, and you have to be open to having those conversations because so much good comes out of building your village and building your network.
Very true. Coach, as I think about this too, as you make these moves, How do you feel like there's two ways? How do you believe that you've grown personally, and what's been the outcome from your career? Like personal and professional growth? Where do you see that? How do you see Z differently now? What does she look like before the move, and what does she look like now?
Yeah. Oh my God, V, that's such a good question. I think back when I first started moving, since you put that date out there, 15 years ago or so, and I think that I was bright-eyed and ready to take on the world, and I think in some ways I'm still like that, right? Like, I was so excited to move for the first time. I had spent my entire life in Michigan, and so excited to move for the first time and establish myself in new and different ways. And I think in some ways I still carry those pieces of me. I think some things that definitely have changed, right? Like, I hire moving services now. I don't do it myself. Ladies, don't try to do it yourself anymore. It is too much. But I realize, again, where I need help, where I need assistance. And I realize, back then I didn't realize the value of my network. I have to be honest. It was, you're my friend and you're my friend, and that's nice. But I didn't realize the value of having a strong network and people that you could talk to, not just personally, but also professionally. And I think if I look back on who I was when I first started this adventure of, moving from company to company, I just, I really thought I had to do everything alone. And now I realize that I can have so much support. And most of my opportunities and the things that I've been able to do has come from me having a really good network of individuals that champion for me.
That's good. And then when you think about professional, talk about, how were you strategizing, or was there a plan, or was it, hey, I'm taking the next opportunity, become corporate vice president at a huge brand? What was that journey like, and how did that evolve over time as a result of the moves?
Yeah, I think, when I first started and I, was building my career again at Domino's, and these roles didn't exist. None of this existed when I first really entered my career. A lot of the things that are happening from a digital perspective started to develop more as my career was developing. And so for me, as I saw new opportunities, a chance to improve my skill set, I always just took the next opportunity that was interesting and challenging to me. If it was interesting and it was challenging and I felt like I could have growth, I never felt like I would lose in that opportunity. I didn't think I needed to chase the next title. I think I always felt like I needed to chase the next opportunity. And so for me, that has been the largest thing that has helped me in my career, because once the title came, I was prepared for it because I had, the skill set under my belt, because I was always looking to learn and grow and develop. Um, so, I would love to say, 10, 15 years ago, I sat back and I said, one day this is what I'm going to be doing. I never
Right.
really did that, because I feel like when it comes to digital, things shift so much. So
Mhm.
whatever I would plan for even myself 5, 10 years from now,
Mhm.
digital could shift, and I have to be agile and shift with it.
That makes sense. Definitely does. Have you ever felt unqualified to take advantage of the next opportunity? And if so, how have you handled those moments?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think I feel unqualified. If you feel unqualified for everything you're doing, you're not dreaming big enough. You're not doing
Mhm. Yeah.
enough. If you feel like you can tick every box and you have every qualification, there's no growth in that. There's no
Yeah.
growth. You don't grow in those areas. So for me, I definitely felt unqualified in probably most opportunities that I've taken. Again, when I was at Domino's, there was no such thing as online ordering. What did I know about building a website? Like, it's like, I was like, what's that? Like, what am I supposed to do with this, right? So, and I went from Domino's to a bank. I had never worked for a financial institution before. What do I know about banking, especially corporate banking? And then I left there and went to a tax company. What do I know about taxes? Like, so every opportunity and every role that I've taken, there's always been a level of feeling like I'm not going to tick every box, and that's okay, right? But what I do know about myself, the skills that I do have, I feel pretty good about those skills that I have, and some of the skills, I'm not even talking about the hard skills of being able to develop the website from a UX and UI perspective or understanding SEO, all of those things. Yes, I know all of those things, but it's about being resilient. It's about knowing how to figure things out. It's about, having good communication skills. It's about working together and being able to bring people along. Those are the skills that I really anchor to say that even though if I feel unqualified in a position and I don't necessarily check every box, I still feel like I would be successful in that role, or I still feel like I can give my best in that role and turn it into something that's a valuable experience for myself and for others, right?
Yeah, that's a good way. I love what you said. You said, if you're not uncomfortable or feel like you can if you feel like you can check every box, then you're probably not dreaming too big. And I think that's such a good point. And I will ask you this as a follow-up is, how do you look at comfort and risk taking now in your life? How does that look for you because of all the things you've been able to do and the results you've been able to achieve because of it?
Yeah, I probably, because of my, career path and just my life in general, I'm probably comfortable being a little uncomfortable. I like being a little uncomfortable. I like the gray areas where things aren't quite exact and I have the opportunity to creative problem solve and figure things out. That's okay for me. That's a space that I feel really good in. And I do believe, right, in my heart of hearts, I always believe that everything's going to work out exactly as it should. Even if things are of a failure, right, or what we would consider a failure. Just because I failed at something doesn't mean I am a failure. And so it worked out so that I have a learning and a growth opportunity, and I can apply that moving forward. Maybe I needed that failure or that challenge so that I have a different perspective, or I can think about it a different way moving forward. So I'm comfortable in the gray area. I continue to take risks. I'm not like jumping out of an airplane. It's just not my style, not my speed. I'm not into it. But there are other things that I really like to do, and professionally and personally, that are more on the risk-taking side, and I'm okay with that, right? Like, and I think that I realize that that's part of my personality, and I accept that. And now, if there's something, I also think about calculated risk, right? So if there's something for me to think, I don't just like take risk to take risk. Like, yeah, I'm just gonna risk it all. But I think about, how could this pan out? Is it worth the risk? I calculate what level of risk that, my risk tolerance, what level of risk I'm willing to accept. And it tends to be a little bit maybe more than others, but again, I'm not out like I'm a Red Bull commercial jumping out of it. I know my limits.
I love it. You said failing doesn't mean you're a failure, and separating the two is such an important distinction that we should make. And also taking calculated risk. Risks don't always have to be just wild and reckless. They can be very calculated. And like you said, measuring the return on taking that is something that I think that we can all consider in our own lives. What would you, as we're wrapping up, what would you say to any woman who's watching this? What would you want her to leave this understanding or knowing about taking the leaps and being able to walk it alone when she needs to?
Yeah, I would say you are more powerful than you think. Give yourself credit. You can do anything you put your mind to. And you can think about a way that you can do it that's right for you and authentic to who you are. But give yourself credit. You can do whatever you put your mind to is number one. Number two, I would say, is get out of your own way, right?
Mm,
A lot of times we think other people are the voices that are telling us we can't do something, or that our voices that are saying, haha, look at her, she failed at something. And really, it's just yourself.
mm.
Sometimes we have a lot of negative self-talk about our actions and things that we've done, and you gotta get rid of those voices. They mean you no good. So get out of your own way, quiet those voices, and know that you can do anything. And then the final thing I would probably say to women listening in is take care of your village, right?
Mm.
Like, you're going to have a network of amazing people you run across in this thing called life. And some of them are there, maybe for a reason, season, or lifetime. And you just have to water those flowers, take care of your village as you have those people in your lives, because you never know if they're going to come around again. You never know what opportunities they could offer you.
Mhm.
You don't know. So really, really be careful and take care of your relationships.
I love that. Those are such powerful and important messages to take away, ladies. So thank you so much, Zerlina, for sharing with us your story, your journey, your courage, and just the willingness to take those risks, those calculated risks in your life. I
Absolutely.
appreciate you sharing. Thank you for everything, and to everyone watching. Thank you for taking a moment to listen in. Feel free, and
One
Zerlina,
other thing before
oh,
we
go ahead.
wrap here,
Yes, please.
this book is amazing. I don't know if everyone listening in has this book. You're absolutely worth it. But if I would have had this book, I just thought back to, like, when we met each other. If we would have
Mhm.
had this book, oh my God, girl, you're changing lives. So I
Wow.
applaud you for what you're doing, and thank you for having me. I know you were wrapping up, but I had to interrupt to get a
No,
plug
no,
in.
it's fine. It is fine. I did not ask for that plug, so
It is
that means
not, but I
thank
just
you.
wanted to put this out there because it is a really, really good book, and I mean that from the bottom of my heart. Like, you did an amazing job with it.
Thank you so much. Thank you for the time. Thank you for your friendship. Thank you for everything. And to everyone watching, share this again. It'll also be available on audio on the podcast on Anchor in the next week. Whenever you're watching this live on demand, you can go to Anchor at any point in time. Carolina, thank you again. I can't say thank you enough. And for anyone watching, make sure you tune in again next Thursday, 12 p.m. Eastern, during your lunchtime or when you're first starting out. If you're on the Pacific Coast, make sure you watch us. We'll be having another wonderful and phenomenal woman who will be sharing with us as well. This is me signing off again, Valera Wilson, as your host of Own Your Yes. Have a great day.